pump to pump the water up. The water, fresh water, flowed on the surface of the ground. It was a paradise for his family. The animals could drink that water. We had it today for lunch. There's no chlorine in it. It's crystal clear. You can drink out of the stream. There are sponges in the ponds that don't exist on the mainland anymore because of pollutants, detergents. Here, it is just as clean as it was 300 years ago. And because there are few people that live here, only 3 families all year round.
It's sort of like a time capsule then as to what Long Island was before.
A complete time capsule. You've got some oaks that have been growing since before Columbus discovered America. They're still growing. They're second only to the redwoods in California. We have quail, we have wild turkey, and they're so much better eating than the barnyard turkey that you get in the supermarket. These have never eaten corn. They've only eaten acorns and berries. The meat is tender. It's not coarse. And the birds are much smaller, of course. They fly like pheasants. They're a tough shot to shoot.
There's strawberry and there's apples.
Strawberries. There are wild blackberries here, of course, that wild turkey love to eat. Wineberries. Grapes, lots of wild grapes. We make jelly, eat with the venison when we eat the venison steaks and the chops. And once I ran out of eggs here, and I had 4 ambassadors in the house, and I had a few eggs, and the rest was deer's brains, and they looked sure as could be like scrambled eggs. So I managed to have enough eggs for breakfast. Nobody knew it until afterwards, and then I told them they were eating deer's brains.
When you think of this island, it's an unspoiled paradise, as you say, and you look at the rest of Long Island right out there and what's happened to it in the last couple of 100 years, what do you think about?
Well, I think it's tragic. We seem to be engulfed in a debris of plastic which never breaks down. And there are Coke containers and plastic bottles of Clorox and detergent. And it's tragic. Even on the beach here, you get all these plastic containers washed up by the sea, and they just don't disintegrate. It's like DDT. We never sprayed this island with DDT. Only once. The federal government sprayed against gypsy moth in the 50s. I was furious. But the ospreys here are really, it's their only chance to survive, because we have more in one place in the world than any other place. On this island, we have 40 nests. And we've had 28 young hatched this year.
When the first gardeners came to this country, that would be in the 17th century.
Yeah, the early part of
the early part of the 17th.
We've owned this island over a third of 1,000 years, 335 years.
It must have been, compared to where they came from, compared to the old world, an enormously bountiful place.
Oh, yes. There, for instance, there are lobsters in the rocks. There are oysters. There are clams. There are the most marvelous mussels. And it's a shame what has happened to it in the last 50 years.
Well, what's happened to it in the last 50 years?
It's this incredible pollution. It's the detergents and these terrible sprays, insecticides, which are on the vegetable. You see, my grandparents would like apples from my orchard, even if they had a wormhole in them. But the trouble is that the average American housewife going to a supermarket wants the apples to look like red plastics, or the tomatoes. They don't want a defect which is normal in nature.
At this rate, what do you think Gardiner's Island will look like in 100 years?
Well, I want to try and fence it in as much as possible so it would be prevented from being used as, well, of course, development out, but a federal park was out. Mr. Pike wanted to do that, and it was not the way to preserve it, because a federal park you simply cannot prevent people from using. And if you have 10,000 people a day here, you would absolutely ruin it within the first month.
In 100 years, though, after you and I are gone?
Well, I think it should be in a foundation, in a very restricted use as a ecological gem that it is, with its forests and its lakes, with their aquatic life, and the forests with the reptiles, the snakes, and the turtles, and the wildlife, the wonderful bird sanctuary that it is, and the old buildings should be preserved, some of them older than Williamsburg. And this is part of American history, and the portraits and the silver and the deeds. I would like to put a fireproof vault here and have it open for students, but not to the general public, because if you had thousands of people here a day, the toilet facilities alone would pollute the streams. The ecology is far too delicately balanced to withstand a gross invasion of humans.
Well, it's like the rest of Long Island, really, no?
Yes. The thing is that there are certain areas, I think, in America that should be preserved, and this is one.
This is another time capsule on Long Island, the way the island was centuries ago. The Connetquot River State Park in Oakdale. The Long Island State Park Commission has developed a new kind of park here, really more a preserve than a park. With me is Jack Cahill, the naturalist of the Long Island State Park Commission, who helped develop the very, very delicate visitor system here. Jack, what's the notion behind this place?
Well, the plan, Carl, is mainly that of preservation with use. Because of the fragile ecology here, and because it is a real wilderness type area here on Long Island, we feel that programs that are compatible with the environment, in other words, a limited use type of park. We have guided nature walks, fly fishing by permit. As also, we allow a limited amount of horseback riding on some of our fire lanes under a permit arrangement. The new trend within the park system is to take areas like this, which are very unique and have to be saved. This is an area which has always been a preserve, and now the state acquired it 10 years ago, and then last August they opened it up for the first time. And in order to allow the public to come out here, we feel it has to be on a guide basis. People come out for a walk and learn a little bit about the flora and fauna of the area, and it's strictly by a permit and a controlled basis. The mill was probably a focal point of activity back in the 1700s, built 1750, pre-revolutionary, and the farmers from as far west as Bayshore used to come, bring their grain, and either corn or wheat, and make it into meal. The mill is going to be restored. Hopefully we might have it for the bicentennial. Matter of fact, I've been involved with a miller's school over in Stony Brook, learning the operation of the mill. And it may become a living history museum. Some of the other buildings on the property are quite interesting. We have the old tavern, the old Connetquot Tavern, built in 1820. And being, again, this is Montauk Highway, many of the people used to come out and to go fishing.